Welcome to A Magical Life, Health, Wealth and Weight Loss. I'm your host, Magic Barclay, lead practitioner at Holistic Natural Health Australia and #1 best-selling author. In this podcast, I aim to give you practical tips on how to accelerate and sustain your health, increase your financial, spiritual and emotional wealth, and to look at something that haunts many of us needlessly, weight loss. In some episodes, I'll have guests available to give you even more tips, but in others, the floor is yours. Drop us a line at A Magical Life Podcast on Facebook and let me know what you would like to know more about. Now, sit back and enjoy, because it is time for you to create and truly discover a magical life. Welcome back to A Magical Life. I'm your host, Magic Barclay, and today I'd like to talk to you about change. Change is one of those things that we're never really taught how to deal with as children, and yet it's something that we face constantly. Now, I want to give you an example of a major change in my family that happened this past couple of weeks, and how we all dealt with it, and what change brings about. So my younger son has always wanted to be a zookeeper. Absolutely, since he could talk, that's all he's ever wanted to be. And I created a pathway for him to get there. As a mum who kind of, a bit of a backseat driver, a bit of a hover helicopter mum, I just want to make sure that my child is doing what he loves, so he never has to go to work a day in his life. So he applied for a course that he needs to become a zookeeper. Now, a few factors were in play. Interview skills were probably not where they needed to be. He's quite young compared to everyone else applying for this course. A few other factors were in play. Now, they got him to the second stage of the interviews, the powers that be that choose for this course. And very lovingly, they actually sent him an email giving him a whole lot of feedback from his interview and asked him to reapply next year. So it wasn't a hard no. It was just a not right now. So here's the change. He had next year mapped out, absolutely convinced he'd be doing this course. And now what? We've been somewhat affected by lockdowns, and so some things that he had in play for next year haven't come about. More change. So what does he do for next year? And as all this happened, I looked at him and I looked at how I hadn't equipped him for so much change. I told him all the way through, it's not a guarantee that you get in this year. It's not a guarantee that they're even running the course for next year. Nothing's guaranteed. So I thought I'd done what I could. The kind of don't put all your eggs in one basket scenario. And yet the change required something more. It required something from within him. There was nothing I could do to prepare him for the next steps on how to deal with this change. And that's kind of what I want to talk to you all about today. When we're faced with change, we're faced with an opportunity for personal growth. Now, we talk on this podcast a lot about personal development and about emotional and spiritual wealth. But what does that actually mean when you're faced with major change? It means you have to dig in deep within you. Now, I'm not talking there's a silver lining in every cloud. I'm not talking about everything happens for a reason. Some of these light and love buzzwords, don't get me wrong, I love the light and love. But some of these light and love buzzwords can get a bit tiring and a little bit oppressive in their own way. So how do we deal with change? Well, dealing with it comes from within. It's how you respond to what's happening. So back to this interview for this course. He could have responded with complete bottomed out depression And in fact, look, he did for about 24 hours until he got this email. And that would be a normal response. But some people stay in that bottomed out deep depression. And what happens? They don't see further opportunities. They don't see perhaps a sidestep to the plan. Maybe they just give up. Or what they can do is they can say, what is this teaching me for now? What can I do to create a secondary change that I will gain from? Now, this is different to the silver lining scenario because not every cloud has a silver lining. Some of them have lightning bolts. It's how you navigate your own response. So once we got this email, we discussed it. And he said, okay, so if I do A, B, C, and D, and then reapply for next year, I've addressed all of their issues. And then if in the first interview for next year, I actually tell them I've addressed all of the points that they raised and refer back to the email and name drop the person that wrote the email, that puts me in good stead. And I looked at this 18-year-old and I went, wow, how many of us do that? How many of us look at the feedback that we're getting every day and instead of seeing the change as a disaster, we look at it as such a growth opportunity? Now, the whole world is changing at the moment. We have changes in politics around the world. We have changes in society around the world and in our communities locally. We have changes in weather. Weather has gotten so unpredictable now. And I'm not going to get into why that is, but weather has become very unpredictable. So it's changing constantly, no matter where in the world you live. We're having changes in the family dynamics. You know, long gone now are the, what's it called, a nuclear family? 2.5 children and mum and dad? That just doesn't happen very much now, does it? We have changes in our work hours. We have changes in the way that we live. A lot of people are going into small apartments, not into big homes with a lawn that needs to be mowed. Everything is changing. But what are we doing individually to cope with each change? So here's my top tips on how to cope with change. The first thing is, you know, we've heard so many times, focus on what you can control, not what you can't. I kind of want to shift that one a little bit. Now, we've talked on this podcast before about shadow values. If you missed it, go back to episode 24. It's about shadow values. And control is one of those shadow values. So how do we make control work for us? It's easy. Some of us are what society would label a control freak. My both hands are up right now. But it's not a bad thing. That's one of my top shadow values, as I mentioned in episode 24. How do we make control work for us? How do we focus on the things that build us up rather than tear us down? How do we focus on an anabolic lifestyle rather than a catabolic lifestyle? Well, it all starts from within, and it starts with a system of the body called the immune system. Seems like a dirty word these days, the immune system, and yet it's so important for all of us. There are 4 types of immune system out there. This is your body trying to give you some control. Because if you are a certain immune type, you have an anabolic, a building immune system. Now that can work for you or against you. If you are another set of immune types, in fact a couple of them, they're catabolic, so they break you down. So you'll get inflammation a lot more, you'll get arthritis, joint pain, you may get constant headaches, you may get nerve pain. because catabolic systems want to break down things. Now, neither of those are bad. Don't get me wrong. You can create change with your immune system. In fact, what you want to be doing is cycling through them so you are not stuck in an anabolic or a catabolic system, because being stuck in either can be bad for you. You can have long-term complications. So we want our bodies to embrace change. Our immune systems are designed to embrace change. They are designed to cycle through the different system types, not get stuck in one. So how can we affect immune system change within us? Well, we've all heard of exercise, eat a balanced diet, stay away from sugars, blah, 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 blah. We've heard it a million times. And to some extent, that's right. But the biggest thing we can do is we can avoid toxins, because toxins trigger negative changes in our immune system. Now, toxins could be viruses, bacteria, fungus, could be the things that we eat, could be chemicals that we come in contact with our hygiene products or our cleaning products. It could be toxins off-gassing from furniture in our homes. It could be hand sanitizers full of toxins. And if you want to hear about that, go to episode 30. I talk about the problem with hand sanitizers. But the biggest thing that we can control that has the opportunity to bring toxins into our body and that creates change that sometimes we don't want is our thoughts. Yes, our own thoughts, our own self-beliefs and self-talk can toxify the body, can contribute to hormone imbalances, to immune systems getting stuck in the wrong type for too long. It can contribute to long-term chronic illness. Now, I see this in practice all the time. I have people come to me, they've got disastrous health scenarios with conditions that some doctors just put their hands up in the air and just go, well, I don't know. When they do that, they call it idiopathic. So they'll say this person has an idiopathic disease. Where did it come from? I don't know. You're stuck with it for life. No, they're not. What was this person's self-talk? What was going on in the historical timeline of their health and of their life? And I've tracked things back for some clients to, when they were 5 and their parents got divorced and they told themselves it was all because of them, and life started going downhill. So this is one thing that affects how we embrace change, and it is how we use our shadow value of control. Now, another thing we can do to embrace change. We've looked at self-talk, we've looked at toxins. We've kind of gone a bit around and about in the last 10 minutes. But another thing that we can do to embrace change is ask ourselves, what is behind the curtain? Now, what is behind the curtain could be what other opportunities are available. Again, not the everything happens for a reason or there's, a silver lining in every cloud. Because what could be behind the curtain could be that lightning bolt about to hit you. But if you carefully grasp the virtual curtain, peek around the edge with caution, not with fear, very different things, and look at what could be around behind the curtain. Now, my son did this. He has worked out what he's doing for this next 12 months. He has a huge focus on his health and wellness. He has a huge focus on his social skills. He has a huge focus on his experience levels. That for him was what was behind the curtain. Things that he wanted to take control of, but that he thought, in due time, I'll do it. But now, here it is, perfect opportunity to do it. So, when you're embraced with change, could be a job, could be a partner, could be a home, could be a career choice, could be even what you're just having for dinner. Peek behind the curtain. Is there an opportunity there? Is it an opportunity for personal growth? Is it something that maybe you need to sidestep away from? Now, I'm not saying run away from anything, because as soon as you run, something will chase you. And it's probably something you're not going to want to chase you. So sidestep and say to yourself, what can I learn from this moment? What can propel me forward in this moment of change? Now, I want to give you another scenario right here, and it's with me. I was recently faced with a change. I've been quite involved in a community group. I've spoken about this on a previous podcast. Bullies kind of attacked me, alienated me from some of the group, and that was a big change. So I look now at what can I see? What is behind this curtain? If I sidestep just a minute and take myself out of the situation, what is around the corner? What opportunity could be there? Now, the opportunity for me was to have more time to focus on talking to you on this podcast. Great. I love this. I love bringing you information. An opportunity for my son, because he's involved in this group as well, was that he actually gets some autonomy. He's not my sidekick in the group. He's now stepping into his own. He's doing more things with other community members. He's reaching out to them saying, I'm available to help, mum's not. He's kind of putting himself in there, taking the opportunity, taking the control back, and furthering his place in this group. So we are no longer seen as a joint item on the ticket. He's an individual, and the way he did that was he embraced the change. He looked at what it could teach him. He peeked around the curtain, didn't run away from it. He just sidestepped the issue to find a better way forward. So, back to change. Change can affect our health. We've talked about the immune system. Change can affect our physical being as well. So when we are faced with change, we can embrace it or we can stress about it. Now, when you stress, I've mentioned being catabolic, stress is a catabolic thing. So when we are faced with it physically, we can get wrinkles because the collagen in our skin gets broken down by the stress hormone cortisol. So you see people faced with a lot of change, they can start aging. Now, since time began, we've wanted to fight the aging process. So stress less. Embrace the change. Lower your cortisol. Slow down the aging. I mentioned our bodies can break down. We can get arthritis because, again, stress does this. It causes inflammation. Now, mentally, to cope with the change, all you have to do is tell yourself, yet again, what can I learn from this? What is the sidestep here that I need to take? What is behind that curtain? I'm giving a whole lot of buzzwords and I'm going around in circles. But what I really, really want you to know is that how you approach change can affect your whole life. And we're all faced with change. And so many of us run from it instead of standing up to it and going, what can I learn? What can I make of this situation? Now, sometimes there isn't something that you can learn from change. Sometimes it's just something that's happened and you've got to get on with it and it's out of your control. You know, no longer are we focused on the things we can control. There are other factors in play, and I get that. But it's what you make it mean for you that affects your life. Let's take a look at maybe your favourite coffee shop is closed and it's not reopening. There's a lot of businesses around the world in that situation at the moment. And, this was part of your routine, this favourite coffee shop. And it's completely out of your control. And yes, there's another coffee shop down the road and you could go there, but it's not the same. It doesn't have the same atmosphere. The nurturing isn't the same. This was your favourite coffee shop for a number of reasons. And it's a change. There is nothing you can do about it. You've responded the best way you can to it. So what can you do? You can ask yourself what you got from going to that coffee shop. Now, it might have been the staff that work there. It might have been the beans they used for your coffee. What I want you to do is not mourn the change, but embrace it again. Store those memories away. The memories alone will bring a smile to your face when you remember how great that coffee was. The girl behind the counter always had such a smile. That's a memory. And that is something you can hold on to. No one can ever take that away from you. And you know what? 20, 30 years down the track, something will trigger that memory. You may find a coffee shop somewhere in the world that uses the same beans, or, a scent might waft past you and remind you of the people that ran the coffee shop. Something will happen to bring that back, that happy memory for you. And that is also embracing change. There's nothing you could do about it. There's nothing you could learn from it, but you could embrace a happy memory from that point. Now, a lot of my guests have spoken to us on this podcast about all sorts of facets of personal development. As I said, we focus a lot on that. And we talk about wealth, spiritual and emotional and physical. But what I want you to get from your memories is a wealth of fulfillment. And that fulfillment can go with you wherever you go. I'm going to give you an example here. My Nana, probably my most favourite person in my whole world ever, left us decades ago now. And there is a food that she got me hooked on as a child. And it's pickled continental cucumbers. Very salty, very garlicky, marinated in dill, like hooked, absolutely hooked on them. And I don't have them very often now because I know they're not good for me. But I've bought dill a few times, fresh dill, to try and recapture the moment of when she would open the jar and serve them out to me, because that's something I connected her with. And it wasn't the same. It just was not the same. And I couldn't put my finger on why. It's because the emotional attachment was to the memory, not to the scent. It was to the combination of, the excitement of her opening a new jar of pickles. But it was also the memory of the nurturing. So you're never going to have from these memories all the factors in play. But something might trigger it. And for me, that happened just the other day. I was sitting there with my oils collection. As you know, I use doTERRA oils. And for more about oils, we spoke to Inga Truscott in episode 29 about oils. But for me, I use my doTERRA oils. And I happened to be unboxing a few new ones. I'd bought myself a new display stand for them, and I'd bought some dill oil. So I opened that. That was nice. I didn't do the lid up properly. Then I opened up a blend, and it was a women's blend. It's quite fragrant. And I had a bit of a sniff of that. That was nice, so I put that one away. Then I opened up a rose oil. Now, rose oil is one of the most expensive oils there is, so it's the only time I've ever bought it. And here I was opening it, and it combined with the scent of the women's blend that I had just smelt, plus the dill bottle that I hadn't closed properly. And all of a sudden, memory came back of my Nana opening a jar of pickles. Now, any one of those situations in that moment, any one of those factors in that moment would not have brought the memory back with a sense of warmth and light and peace. But the combination of them happening did. And it was just this moment where my whole day changed. I didn't seek it. I didn't try and create it. It just happened. And do you know what? My day changed from something that, I was excited about, my new oil stand, but I actually had a lot on my mind and I was starting to get really stressed out. But my whole day changed at that moment from that memory. So what I'm saying here is, don't run from change, embrace it. You might not see what you can do at the time, but something may happen that helps you find that sidestep. Now, I've kind of gone round and round in circles here talking about change. I hope some of this talk today with you has struck a chord and given you some tools. Now, in relation to your health, change can be good. Change can actually be a stimulation for health. Change can be bad because we can focus on what we can't control instead of looking within ourselves. In relation to your wealth, your emotional, your physical, your spiritual wealth can all come from change. You can either go out and actually make a change, or you can embrace a change that happens and find the answer within. In relation to your weight, we know that stress is a major factor. Remember, stress is a catabolic scenario. It changes things in your body, but not for the better. So try and control that stress, and you will ultimately help your weight. I hope today's given you some insight. Like I said, I've kind of gone around in circles here. But the biggest thing I can say about change is if you need some help, reach out. I work with Holistic Natural Health, fantastic company, and they do results coaching. If you find that you cannot embrace change in a healthful and a positive and a nurturing manner, or you need to work with your shadow values a bit more, or maybe there's a past trauma or an incident that just keeps tripping you up every now and then. Maybe your memory isn't of a nana with dill pickles. Maybe it's something negative or harming or creates fear for you. Results coaching may be something that you want to look at. So drop on by, send a message on Facebook or on Instagram or to the website holisticnaturalhealth.com.au and say, I would like some help with change. Tell me about the results coaching, please. I'm going to leave this rambling episode right here. I just wanted to get on and explain that change can be a good thing if we allow it to be. Now, in episode 34, we have Kim Townsend joining us. Kim is an amazing woman who has embraced change, and she will talk to us about what that looks like for her. Kim is a coach, she's an author, she's a speaker, an absolutely amazing woman with a very eclectic life, and I think you'll really enjoy listening to what Kim Townsend has to say. Coming up in episodes 35 and 36, we have Dr. Perry Nicholson from Stop Chasing Pain, and he'll be talking about all things lymphatic mojo. And again, at Holistic Natural Health, we use the lymphatic mojo protocols. So Dr. Perry will be talking to us all things fantastic lymph and loving your lymph, another system of the body that we just don't know enough about. Perry will be sharing his tips. But for now, embrace the change and go forth and create your magical life. Thanks for listening today. Please subscribe to hear future episodes, leave a review, and share this podcast. You can follow us on Facebook at A Magical Life Podcast or at Holistic Natural Health Australia. That's holistic with a W. You can find us on Instagram at Holistic Natural Health or at www.holisticnaturalhealth.com.au. That's where you'll access all sorts of articles, freebies, and more.